Good evening. So in the month of January, we had 9 events. January is always a slow month in banquet facilities no matter what. So it was a good opportunity to bring staff in, clean, get carpets clean, things like that, which was definitely needed. So in January, we had 9 events in the community center or lower level. That was also opened up for, that did not include AARP Tax Day, the Three Rivers Women's Club, Cub Scout groups, Boy Scout groups, dance in the community center, and in the lower level. And dance missed a day because of inclement weather, so we also squeezed in, we found another day in March where she could make that up. We had 2 events at Town Hall in January, and Town Hall was also opened up for museum inventory and Kiwanis. Speaking of Kiwanis, they did host an event in the community center, their large bourbon raffle, and Paul and Steve were kind enough to stop by the Monday after and just say that the room set worked so well. They were very appreciative of the suggestions. They had over 230 tickets sold, so they felt like the room set was just excellent for that amount of people, so they were very thankful. So it was nice of them to stop up and say that. Ronnie and his team stayed busy here. They fixed 3 toilets, changed multiple light bulbs, and continually cleaned the leaves that blow in the front of the doors at the lower level. I mean, the leaves will pile up waist high down there no matter what they do, and he really stayed on top of it. Also installed the new TVs in the community center, which have been used by at least 4 events so far. And then I called Ronnie this week. There was a woman who had dropped something that was very meaningful into the elevator shaft, and she called to get it back, and so Ronnie came right up and got it, and she sent this letter. It says to Keri, but really it should be to Ronnie. Thank you for recovering the keychain that meant so much to my husband. We really appreciate the attention you gave us in returning it to him. And Michelle and Tom Fugazi. This woman, her sister-in-law worked for 8 presidents, and this was something with the presidential seal on it. It was very important to them. So her husband is a cheese distributor. She sent an entire bag of cheese that now I'm gifting to Ronnie for doing this. So thanks, Ronnie, I appreciate that. Held my first open house in January. It was extremely successful. We had a little over 30 guests who visited the community center. 3 contracts were signed that night, and 1 person requested a private showing that resulted in a non-resident wedding booking. They came in the following week and then booked a wedding. So that was really good. I plan to continue open houses monthly. The next open house will be on February 23rd from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock, and Sissy's been kind enough to put those on the website for us. I did get a really nice message from Rick Sullivan this week. We've been sending a ton of business across the street to Sullivan's because it is just so convenient for our community to go there. So he sent me a nice text on yesterday. Thanks for sending all of those good caterings our way. See you Friday for the celebration of life you sent over yesterday. We really appreciate you. So it's nice to know that businesses right here in this community are feeling the impact of a busy community center. Town Hall for 2023 so far, so from January 1st to February 15th, has 8 bookings. Town Hall does not book way ahead of time. Those bookings usually come within weeks or a month of the time that they need that space. So 8 events from January 1 to February 15th. Community Center and lower level from January 1 to February 15th has booked 108, in the year of 2023, has booked 108 events. So right now in 2023, we have 108 events booked in the community center. That's a lot of events. Current bookings for 2024, we have 16 events booked for the community center or the lower level, none yet for Town Hall. The number of guests who have come through the community center January 1st through February 15th is 1,455 guests. So within our events, we've hosted 1,455 guests.
That's why we got kids the tolls.
That's right. The number of guests through Town Hall to date have been 235 guests. I think maybe there's a little bit of contract confusion, so I just want to clear this up. When we write a contract, you have to give us your estimated guest count. So what I ask you to do is give us your worst case scenario. To me, a worst case scenario means your highest number that you're gonna have. That puts you in the right rental category. It tells me how much staffing I need. It makes sure that I have the correct number of tables, facility-wide, because sometimes we share tables on each level. So if a contract, for instance, says 250, that just means that they booked for the maximum amount they're allowed, but they may go down to 160 because it's all in that same category. So then I call 2 weeks before the event and get a final count from them. So just because a contract says 250 or 160 or 80, it doesn't mean that they have that. I put the final count in the folder 2 weeks before. So if someone asks to see a contract and it says a certain number, that does not necessarily mean that that's the number in an event. We talked a little bit about safety. I was actually going to address that about the cameras, so I'm glad that that was approved. It is true, my staff walks to that dumpster every night. And I do also think that lighting back there is an issue. I think that we could really use some overhead lighting near that dumpster. That pathway up there, it gets very dark, and we are sending females there, all weekend. But that brings me to the other thing. Typically, when I started here, we were staffing, this wasn't my rule, this was just what was always done here. We were staffing one attendant when it was parties of 80 or less, so there was one attendant here. Just after this whole thing happened, it just got me to thinking, I really don't like one attendant being here ever in the evening, because if the whole party leaves, then that attendant is here closing the building and walking out to their car alone. So I would like to just say that from now on, in the evenings, we will always have at least 2 attendants here, even if it's only 80 people, just for safety reasons. So, if I could just go ahead and start staffing it that way, I would prefer. Then one person is not in the building. Daytime is fine.
Why don't we have a discussion about that, you and I, and
Okay.
go from there.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to bring that up. That's it for me. January was a good month. Any questions about anything?